Hello everyone, my name is Viliami Vakauta, my student ID S11016057 and my location is 15 Kini Street, Suva, Fiji. The date of this recording 17th of November 2021. The subjects that I base my micro-teaching is science and level is class 5. The topic that I choose is types of energy transferred. Types of energy transferred. Before I continue my lesson, I usually do some brainstorming in the introduction to get the attention of my students. And today I use questioning for my brainstorming to get the attention of my students. The first questions is, can anyone tell me what would happen to you when you stand beside a fire? Students will think about their experiences, their brain, what they have came through in the past. That's the importance of brainstorming. My brainstorming is try to get their prior knowledge and trying to get the attention, and the other thing is for the student to have some hint and curious what will happen in my lesson. That's why I usually use brainstorming to start off my lesson. The next one is, what will happen if you hold a steel that one of its ends is on the fire? These questions of brainstorming is based on conduction. The first one is based on radiation. And the third one is, what do you feel when you put your hands above a fire? There's a fire here and you put your hands above it because the heat rises up. That is convection current. And after I get the attention of my students, then I continue to the learning outcomes. The learning outcomes, of course, is related to the topic, and my learning outcome is to identify the three types of how energy is transferred. Three types how energy is transferred. It is convection, another one is conduction, and of course the radiation. After the learning outcomes, we will discuss with the students about the definitions of the three types of how energy is transferred. The first one is convection current. We discuss with the students. It occurs when heat is transferred by the movement of liquids or gases. That is happens when you boil a kettle. The second one is conduction, and the definition is conduction is the flow of heat inside an object. It is also the flow of heat between objects in contact with each other. An example is the flow of heat from a hot frying pan to foods placed on the pan to cook. And the next one is radiation. Its definition that I think is suitable for the class 5 is, radiation is energy that comes from a source and travels through space. For example, light travels from the sun, and heat do you feel from the fire? That is radiation. So, the next one, after we discuss the definitions of the three types of how energy is transferred, then we come to do the experiment. So the experiment is to try to prove that the three types of energy can travel through solids, liquids, and space. For my experiments, I will divide the class into small groups, data group working that I starting in my experiment, because for the student to have their chance to experience what is happening during the experiments. Because if I use whole class for one tools for the experiments, of course some students will not physically contact with the experiment. They just stand beside and watch some other students to conduct the experiment. So for me, it's better to divide the students into small groups for the experiment. So the experiment, the tools that I need is a metal. I use here the spoon, the water, and a steel pot. For my source of fire here, I use the stove. Some schools, they have their own burner. Like us in Tuvalu, we use the burner on our lab. But here I use the stove case. Yeah. Put here to heat. But before you heat the water and put the spoon, let the students to touch to make sure it is not hot before the experiment actually done. Let the student to touch the water, it's cool. That the spoon is cool before you turn off the fire. So in here, students will monitor the heat in the water, in the spoon. If the spoon take longer to heat the other end you hold, let the spoon, you put it inside here to make it the experiments fast. And of course, let the students to feel the warmth or the heat from the fire, that is radiation, and you explain like this. When the students feel the water is becoming warm, then you discuss with them that is convection currents. The heat and from the bottom, the water that heats from the bottom come up, and the cool water on the surface cool down, and it's recycled like that. And this one you explain to them that is conduction, because the heat is travel through the solid metal to your hand, and the heat that you feel from the fire, that is radiation. So the students already prove those three types of how energy is transferred. Hold this. It's hot now. Put it very fast here. Put it in the lesson. So after the experimentations, the experiment, then you come to the last part of the experiment is explanation. So the students now, they compare what they have achieved or what they have learned or what they observed during the experiments to their prediction. See who got the right assumption and who got the wrong assumption. And after that, I give them they stay in their group to answer these questions. The group written work. The first question is only one question, please. Sorry. Write one example how energy is transferred through convection currents, conduction, and radiation in real life. So they think about another example from their real life that reflect convection current, conduction, and radiation. Then they write it, discuss it in their group, and report it to the whole class. So after reporting their group working, I will give individual activity. It's a matching terms and their definition. So the students will work individually in this activity. This is a written work only for matching. And after that we correct it and do some further discussion or about their individual activity. And we come to the conclusion of the lesson is I will let free volunteers, students, to come to the front and share what they have learned from the lesson in terms of convection current, radiation, conduction, or define what is energy transfer, just for extra knowledge for them, the lesson. That is the conduction of the lesson is let free students or more students, based on the time allowed, time left for the lessons, to only give one what they have learned from the lesson. I think that's my lesson for today, and I use some teaching strategies in my micro teaching is POE, that's prediction, observation, and explanation. I use group working, individual activities, written activities, and also the first part of the lesson is the brainstorming. I think that's the teaching strategies that I have used in this micro teaching. Thank you very much. I hope my lesson is clear and understandable for you guys. Thank you very much.